Welcome, everyone. We are excited to share with you some of the information we have related to prenatal and postnatal care, as well as health and wellness when it relates to our infants and toddlers. We have named this health chat the first 1,000 days of life and the crucial role nutrition plays on these critical years. And you're going to hear a little bit more in a few minutes about why we are focusing on specifically the first 1,000 days of a child's life. It is a very critical time. There's a quote here that says, "The first 1,000 days of a baby's life are likely to determine the rest of her life, whether she grows up to be healthy or not, both physically and emotionally." We believe strongly in being preventative and really being intentional when it comes to health and wellness. So we are hoping that as you listen and learn tonight, that you can take some nuggets and apply them to your own family or share them with someone who can benefit from that. So my name is Karen Beckley. I am joined by Breeden, Samantha Kalasek, and Kate Taylor. And I'm actually going to hand it off to Kate to start us out tonight. We are very fortunate to have Kate because she is a birth educator as well as a doula. And so she has some wonderful experience, but also from the field, quote unquote, just a lot of expertise to share with us tonight as well. So Kate, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Karen. I'm Kate Taylor. That's a picture of my family there that Karen just popped up. I have two girls, and they're ages 11 and 7. And my husband, Matthew, is, the rock of our family, too. So he's pictured there. As Karen mentioned, I work outside the home as a birth professional. So for those of you that don't know, a doula is someone who attends childbirth. So over the last 10 years or so, I've attended about 115 births and helped over 300 families kind of learn more about birth and preparing for it. And in doing so, I've really figured out that part of my passion is helping them find evidence. And in 2017, about July, my family was researching for our own health and our own wellness and came across a community of people here, that some of which you'll hear from tonight, and Shackley products. And as I started researching and learning more about them, I started making connections with a lot of the needs that my clients were seeing and a lot of the needs that come up in questioning and preparing for birth and all of that. So this webinar being about the first 1,000 days is so important to me and my passion, and also connecting to, real people and real stories and real products that have helped change the course of some of these mothers, fathers, and babies' lives. So Karen, if you want to advance forward a little bit, we'll kind of give you a little synopsis of what this first 1,000 days is and what it means and why it's so important. So where we come up with the 1,000-day window is really equates to the 9 months that the baby is in utero, and go through the spectrum of experiences, including birth, immediate postpartum, up into 2 years of the child's life. And so, it can be viewed really as the most essential time for building blocks for the future of this person that's coming into the world, and the mothers that are becoming and the parents that are becoming. So what's really neat is that this is backed by the World Health Organization and UNICEF. These are backed by the world's health experts, are really saying that this critical window is not only impactful on youth and childhood, but can take the educational potential and the potential for changing the world into a higher plane. And so, as cheesy as it may sound, these first 1,000 days, if a foundational health is achieved, we're really talking about raising well-adjusted, well-nourished, well-nurtured children from happy, healthy families, mothers and fathers, and on a global level, really trying to change the future of humanity. So I want to put that out there because that's what this passion is about. So that's why we want to share about these first 1,000 days with you, and how to find simple, good health solutions to build those blocks and to keep them going for your whole family.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we're going to move on to Sam now. Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit about your family?
Yeah, so this is my family. I have 3 boys and a little baby girl. And I have always been one of those really obnoxious people that just enjoys pregnancy, like from the second that you, find out you're pregnant all the way through labor and delivery. I've always had very easy pregnancies, very quick labors and deliveries. It's kind of that after the baby comes that I've struggled in the past. My first two boys were super colicky, really gassy. We had just a lot of issues where, they put me on certain diets because I was nursing, and it never really worked. They just sort of grew out of it by like 4 to 6 months old. And then I got pregnant with my third son, and everything same. Until about between 32 and 34 weeks, we were finding that he wasn't growing very well. So they just started monitoring me. And during one of those monitoring sessions, his heart rate dropped and it didn't come back up. So it was like episode of Grey's Anatomy. They're rushing me into the OR. I was intubated, emergency C-section he was a month early. So he was 4 pounds, 3 ounces. Beautiful little boy named Paxton. He's 2 now. We came to find out that he did have a rare genetic disorder. It's called Prader-Willi syndrome. We didn't know that while I was pregnant. So I spent about 2 months in the NICU with him. And in my prior postpartum, I was always like super anxious, really overly emotional that first month. And luckily, after Paxton was born, that's when Shackley entered my life. And I got on the vitalizer, which we'll speak about later. And that changed everything. I mean, I was at the bottom during, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But physically, I just felt fantastic. And the reason was because I got on a prenatal that worked. I've always taken a multi, and I never realized that you were supposed to feel different. And what was really cool is that after Paxton was about a year, we conceived his little sister. And she was my first child that we didn't need fertility help. I always needed some type of drug to stimulate a period and then to help with ovulation. And after I got on the vitalizer, I had my first cycle naturally in like 15 years, which is just bananas. But why does your brand matter? Well, not only does it matter because you should feel a difference, but it should be safe. Actually, in 2008, the FDA did a survey on lead in prenatal vitamins or women's vitamins, prenatal vitamins, and children's vitamins. And they tested 374 brands. These were like brands that you see everyday, brands I used, organic, natural, leading brands, and 99% contain some amount of lead.
That is unbelievable.
It's just crazy, right? And so like, that's why it matters. What I love so much about our multivitamin and the vitalizer strip that I talked about is these are certified prenatal and postnatal supplements. They're backed by 12 clinical trials, botanical ingredients. And you can use these before you're pregnant, while you're pregnant, well after you're, have given birth. We do 100,000 quality tests, highest standards of purity and potency. And as moms and just as women, like we're worried about enough, right? So it's just so wonderful that like I don't have to worry about what I'm putting into my body because Shackley's already done the work for me. They go above and beyond. I see these questions right here. You should be able to ask your supplement company any of these questions and get the answers. I actually did that when we got home with Paxton. I was just like, okay, all of a sudden I feel amazing and I'm taking something, but my whole life I've taken something and never felt great. Like why? I got hung up on a lot, but I mean, you should be able to say, who's doing the clinical studies, the third party reviews, where are these studies found? Shackley can answer every single one of these questions for you. And in fact, we have a public website showing all of this, which I think is just incredible.
That's one thing that I really love about when parents start to ask questions, but it's interesting. I did the same thing. I researched my car seats and my cribs and all of these things and didn't really research about whether or not I was absorbing the amounts of vitamins that my doctor was suggesting that I take. And I see it all the time professionally too. A lot of people spend so much time asking other very important questions and researching other very important things for the baby. But with this first 1,000 days, if we're really looking at the quality and getting, good answers from good companies, then it's better for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, hi, everyone. My name is Lauren. I want to share a little bit on that. And before I get to my story, because this is a really, really important part for me of why I switched. So when I first heard about Shaklee, my first child was just maybe 6 months old at the time. And I thought that I had been taking a prenatal that was natural. I was already trying to do a lot of natural things in my life. But I didn't realize that just because something says it's natural, one, that's not necessarily always the case. And two, you have to see, is it proven to actually work? And so something that I have come to really, really appreciate about Shaklee is not only the purity and the safety, but also the effectiveness. And so this is just showing that University of California in Berkeley, they did a study where they compared people who took Shaklee supplements to another group of people who were on a multivitamin, and then another group of people who took no supplements at all. And they actually found that Shaklee users had double-digit better health markers than those other groups, showing that the products, they work. And they go on to test, we'll go on to this next slide, they go on to test to make sure that everything is safe. And so they do 350 tests on each new botanical ingredient. They do a 100,000 annual quality tests, and they spend $300 million in research and development. And then this is something that's really important. They go beyond organic. So I know for me, I would look at something, and if it said organic, like that meant that it was safe, right? But see, they go beyond just how a plant is grown and harvested, and they actually ensure that the final product is completely pure of any kind of contaminants. So that's what we want. We want to make sure that it's not just grown properly, but that the final product that we are taking and that we're giving our families, that it doesn't have any contaminants.
And that kind of leads into it's proven, right? So we have 100+ patents and patents pending, 138 clinical studies and presentations. And then NASA actually has used Shaklee on every NASA mission since 1993. And you can see Mark Kelly there with that vitalizer strip. NASA actually came to Shaklee and asked us to create a hydration product for them because they knew our standards and the quality of our products. And we also have 144 gold, silver, and bronze U.S. Olympians. And if you know anything about the U.S. Olympians, they can get drug tested at any time, at any day, at any hour, and they choose Shaklee. These Olympians choose Shaklee because they know that no matter what test that is brought to their door, that everything they take is pure and safe. Like, we don't pay these athletes; they just choose to use our products. And then, of course, we're backed by the strongest guarantee, which is 100%. We believe so much in the safety and the quality of every product that if you're not satisfied, you just get your money back. No questions asked, even if it's an empty container.
So I think the point here is, as moms, as dads, we want to provide the safest environment for our children, for our families. Oftentimes we overlook ourselves, right? It's the whole oxygen mask on the airplane analogy. But what I think is important is we really don't think about or do the research when it comes to what we are putting in our bodies most often. And that really is a lot of the focus we're going to put on tonight. So with Shaklee, as we move on, we are so proud of the fact that we have multiple product lines. And so you can see here, we have our foundational nutrition. We even have an all-natural 180 healthy weight line. We have a beauty line of skincare that is beyond organic, as Lauren mentioned. And if you think about what it is you're putting on your skin and what's being absorbed, especially during pregnancy, that is so crucial. And so we are proud to say that we have a product line that is not only safe, but it works. And so we have clinical results without compromise. And then, of course, our cleaning products. Dr. Shackley himself actually invented a green cleaner before green cleaners were cool. Right now they're all the rage, but our biodegradable cleaners are safe. And when you think about what kind of environment you want to provide for your own children, especially at these early stages, it's important that you think about all of these things. So we'll talk a little bit about the cleaners in a moment as well. One of the product lines that isn't featured on the slide that we are going to mention tonight too, believe it or not, is our athletic performance line. And Sam was referring to the fact that we have hundreds of Olympians that choose our products because they are safe and effective. And you may wonder, why are we talking about sports products tonight on a prenatal and postnatal call? Well, if you are pregnant, you know exactly why, because you are growing a human. And it really does equate to running a marathon on a daily basis.
It
But
is.
it is, literally, right. Especially that exhaustion in the first trimester. I remember experiencing that myself. But some of these products are so wonderful and so helpful during those stages of pregnancy and even postnatal. So you're going to hear us refer to some of those. So we just want to make sure you're familiar with them and know that just because they are part of our sports performance line, they are still very crucial, very vital in these stages.
Okay, so we want to ask not just about mom stages in pregnancy, but look at, why is a healthy dad important? And honestly, it's 50% of the equation when it comes to infertility in some cases. Recently, it's been shown that more than 90% of male infertility cases are due to low sperm counts. That includes motility, which is, also includes anatomical problems, but for the most part, sometimes are related directly to overall health, like activity level, weight, obesity being a consideration. Even with female health and fertility, on average, if a woman loses anywhere from 10 to 20% of the body weight, if they're considered obese, fertility increases dramatically. So recently also studies have shown that a combination of folic acid and zinc supplements can help increase sperm count by 74% in men who have fertility problems. So, when I look at this and I work with couples who are facing this challenge, and many women even here on this call may have family members have gone through it on this call, when we look at simple health solutions, Shackley does offer solutions that can be used in, not always in place of, but in conjunction with a holistic approach to fertility and increasing it. So a holistic approach to looking at infertility and talking with the providers that people are already working with, so that when conception does happen, the body's not weighed down with pharmaceutical toxins, and instead is healthy and functioning optimally just by adding some simple solutions. So you're going to hear more of those from the female perspective, but we wanted to make sure to mention that it's also important to look at the male perspective when, talking about preconception and fertility and preparing everything to be optimal.
Perfect.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Lauren. I briefly shared a little bit of my story, and I'm going to be pretty brief again, just for time's sake. But when I first got onto Shackley products, by the time I got in the vitamins, my first daughter was about probably 9 months old at the time. So my first pregnancy was with no Shackley at all. And I did have, some issues that just weren't pleasant. I had the carpal tunnel pain where you wake up during the night and you're from your elbows down to your hands. It's just like pain is radiating. I remember pregnancy insomnia where I'd wake up and be up for hours. I apparently had a UTI and had to be put on antibiotics. I had my daughter and I experienced some postpartum anxiety and a very colicky baby. So flash forward, 9 months, and got on Shackley products. And then I got pregnant with my son a couple years later, and with my second and then my third pregnancies, I did not experience that carpal tunnel. When I did start to have the insomnia, I took a product called Vital Mag that was so helpful for me with my sleep and not having that anxiety. I didn't have that postpartum anxiety like my first. And I think that's really multifaceted, and something we want to talk about a little bit too is just the emotional side of it, and just helping moms to understand that some of those things you're experiencing on the emotional spectrum are normal. And just having a really strong support system is so crucial for moms. So when I had my third baby, can go to the next slide. This is a picture from a very fast and furious third delivery. My daughter came extremely fast. And one thing that I took before and after was stress relief complex. And that is a wonderful way to just naturally calm your body. And that I just found, after having a baby, I feel like this rush of adrenaline and just some anxiety. And so that's a great way. Also, when your kids are continually growing and you feel that stress as a mom, that's so natural. This is just a way to naturally support your body to help blunt that cortisol response. Something else is that performance product that you saw before on the screen, the Build. That was amazing. I have that right after my deliveries, because you better believe that is like a marathon, delivering a baby. And that is a great way to repair your muscles and help your body to repair. And then the Hydrate, that is our all natural hydration drink. And so that is a great way to just be able to refuel those electrolytes. You can use that during labor. So while you are, sipping on that, and then you can also use it after, which this is a really great way to make sure that you are hydrated, because establishing a healthy milk supply is so important. And those life shakes on the bottom, that is another fantastic way to be able to quickly get in nutrients. I remember I came home from the hospital and the first thing, I have this picture, my daughter's still in her car seat. And the first thing I did was blend up my Life Shake. I just love, and that continues to go on to be my favorite breakfast to have in the mornings. It's 20 grams of protein. You get fiber and vitamins and minerals and leucine for lean muscles. And you're able to just throw in so many different kinds of vegetables. And it's just so important that we take care of ourselves as moms, because we have these little ones depending on us. And so we know that we have to be our strongest and our healthiest so that we can best care for others. And that has just been such an easy way for me to take care of myself. And it's just a great way to recover from labor and delivery. So breastfeeding. Okay. So when I had my first daughter, everything was great. That first week was like a honeymoon period. We were nursing, everything was going great. And then all of a sudden she stopped latching and I started feeling super anxious. Your hormones are changing, and now this baby that's not nursing anymore, I'm, just feeling so incredibly anxious. So something I highly recommend seeing is a lactation specialist. I am so grateful that I had some wonderful resources at our local hospital. And they just spent so much time with me. And I did go on to use a nipple shield that helped with my daughter's latch. And I was so anxious about being able to feed my daughter, and I couldn't believe it. I ended up going on to nurse her for 2 years. I never would have imagined that, but I'm just so grateful. So it's just so important that if you have any kind of concerns, just know that that is normal. It is, we don't get any there's no driver's ed course for, breastfeeding. It's like you have this baby and you're thrown right into it and you really need support. And so I just encourage you to rely on the specialists who know what they're doing and who are happy to help you. It's also so important to establish a healthy milk supply. And so those Hydrate products are a great way to just quickly add to your water and be able to, they actually hydrate better than water alone. And then alfalfa is a supplement that is used for so many different things. People use that from anything from allergies to inflammation in their body to actually boosting your milk supply. So if you're currently breastfeeding and you're noticing that you might have a supply issue, that could be a really simple addition to your diet to help boost that milk supply. And we also understand that perhaps you're in a position where you're formula feeding right now, or maybe you have an older child who did formula feed, and just know that that is wonderful. And what's important is that your baby is fed. And so we just want to make sure that all moms feel supported and know that you can always focus on your child's nutrition, and that not everyone's journey is going to look exactly the same. One other thing I quickly want to mention is mastitis. And so this can happen when you have plugged milk ducts. And I had this at 2 different times, one with my son And then with my third, where, it comes with high fevers, you have a lot of pain and redness, and you just feel really miserable. And sometimes women are put on an antibiotic. And I really just did not want to do that. I know that, there's a time and a place for that, but I wanted to try and avoid it if I could. And so these are some of the products that I would use when I had mastitis. And what's wonderful is that these are really multi-use products. They're a great way to boost your immune system. One of those is the lecithin, and that is a great way. If you notice that you struggle with getting reoccurring plugged milk ducts, that is a really great way to prevent those from happening. So those are just some of the products that I took: vitamin C and nutrifuron and garlic, which is a natural antiviral and antibacterial and antifungal. So those are just some really helpful ways. And then one other resource that I really, really appreciated was it's called Kelly Mom. It's a website that offers just really, really great advice and knowledge for breastfeeding moms. So hopefully that's helpful.
So a lot of what Lauren's talking about too is that postpartum adjustment, right? So I'm really glad that you mentioned seeing specialists when you have things that come up that are moods or emotions, or things that even trouble breastfeeding, or even a colicky baby that won't bottle feed, all those things are important, because the adjustment and the trajectory that a mom and partner go on in that first 1,000 days is directly related to and impactfully related to like how the baby will function and how your family life's going to go. And so you want to get on a path that is successful in all areas, but sometimes you hit road bumps, right? So when we're talking about postpartum and emotional health, what's really important is to have simple solutions that you can go to that are going to work. And so Beckley does have a line of products that a lot of us like to call Mom's Collection because they're essentials. So the first I want to mention is B vitamins. We have a B complex that is really quickly absorbed and in some cases long acting and stays sustained in your body. But as we go through periods of stress, our B levels can dip throughout the day. And I'm one that can verify that, I've been that mom that's patient and patient and patient. And then at 3 o'clock, everybody get your coat on, it's time to leave. That sort of rage comes out. And if I have my B vitamins handy, I know that I feel depleted now. It's sort of like when Lauren mentioned the mastitis. I experienced that too, where I knew I needed lecithin at certain times because I could feel it. I was becoming a little more in tune with my body instead of ignoring a lot of the postpartum things that were going on. So the other things in the collection that are really helpful for moms to have on hand, again, also for dads, the Z Boost, which is a zinc complex, as I mentioned before, can help with fertility and helping to balance men's hormonal health, but also for the hair loss that can happen in postpartum. It's something that women experience that we don't often talk about, but doesn't have to be that way. There's a different type of normal that you can experience when your body's balanced and healthy and you have resources at hand. So I want to also mention the GLA complex. I have an 11-year-old daughter. We are getting familiar with the GLA complex, and it's been helping me as well. Again, I now know what I should feel like instead of having, cycles and mood swings that are predictable. It's predictable that I won't have them. And if I feel a certain way, I know what to go to in my natural medicine cabinet. And it's so helpful. So vitamin D, super important for not just the winter time and chasing away blues, but also, doubling up when you're facing an immune challenge. It's really, there's been studies. Again, I'm a self-proclaimed science geek, and Beckley has helped me really harness that too, because there's a study on everything, and there's somebody who can always get me in contact with medical affairs if I have a question. But looking at a recent study that showed that levels of vitamin D were as effective as things like Tamiflu against like influenza and the everyday viruses that we experience in the wintertime. So that probiotic that's pictured there is the golden little pearl. I mean, it's just so perfect for our family whenever we need it, every day. And was pivotal for me in my introduction to Beckley because I was suffering from 2 strains of influenza followed by pneumonia the January before I joined. And I had a community member and family member, really is what we call them, anybody who's in the Beckley family who has experienced something, whether it was in your child's first 1,000 days or outside of that in your parenting experience. if you've gone through something, the Shaklee community is behind you 100%, with not only samples to help you find a new product that works, but evidence that it does work, and support and love. So that's part of our moms collection. So nutrition for babies and nursing moms, Lauren touched on this a little bit. When she came home from the hospital and chugged her Life Shake, I live by it every day. There are times when I get to about 10 a.m. and I realize I haven't had my Life Shake because I'm starting to get crabby. I'm starting to feel stressed. I'm starting to feel hungry. I go to it every day. So it's why is it especially important for nursing moms and babies? Because babies will take what nutrients they can get from a mother's bones, from a mother's bodies, from a mother's, own reserves. And so depletion can happen very quickly and can be long-term lasting. So we hear about things like, moms getting fatigued and depleted. And these are some good grab and go options. I'm personally using the Shaklee 180 meal bars right now, and we're going on vacation next week, and I just ordered an extra box because if I have one of those, I'm not craving the French fries when we sit down for a meal. I want vegetables because my body's had a good source of protein and is fueled with some calories. So the vitalizer is also pictured there. We have talked a little bit about that being the certified prenatal, but I am so guilty. Even as a birth worker, I knew I should not have done this. After my second daughter was born, I stopped taking my prenatal vitamins because the iron made me sick. The formulation of iron made my tummy hurt a lot. So I stopped. And I got to the point where she was 6 years old before I realized I was completely depleted in adrenal fatigue and not functioning at all. So it's very important to set up that nutrition so that you can nourish your baby without depleting yourself and keep yourself sane with avoiding sugar crashes and things like that. It's really important.
Perfect. Thanks, Kate. So for me, I am one of those people who did not know about Shaklee during my pregnancies, and I can only attest to what it's done for my children's health. So as we transition into the infant and toddler stage, I just want to share a quick story about my littlest guy. So this is my family, my husband, Casey, our oldest daughter, Rosa, and then my middle daughter, Esme, and my youngest guy, Silas, is 5 years old. But when I was pregnant with him, I was over the age of 35. So in the medical world, they let you know that you are geriatric, and they let you know that at every single doctor appointment, by the way, that I was high risk. I had a history of a blood clot that I believe it was maybe 5 years prior to being pregnant with him, that I had in my shoulder. And so I was someone that they were watching like a hawk, which actually brought a lot of peace during my pregnancy. My pregnancy, for the most part, was pretty good. I mean, I exercised, I worked really hard to eat healthy, but I still experienced things like carpal tunnel, like Lauren experienced. And I did experience gestational diabetes with both of my children as well in the last 8 weeks or so. And so I did have to watch my diet even closer than I had been. And when Silas was born, you can see he really isn't my little guy because he was nearly a 10-pound baby. So this is a picture of me right before I delivered, I think a week later. And he was quite the guy. In fact, when we had him, we had the typical hospital outfit that you would bring your baby home in, and he didn't fit in it. So my husband had to run to Gymboree and go get a 3 to 6 month outfit for him to wear home from the hospital. So needless to say, he was quite a baby. But as he grew older, I noticed that my children, I was very intentional about their nutrition. And I would say compared to other kids their age, we probably didn't get sick as much, but we still got sick pretty often. And this is interesting because this was a major mindset shift for me when I finally found Shaklee. Was I just thought sickness and illness was run of the mill, that this was normal. You should be getting sick during flu season and you should be going to doctor visits multiple times a year, right? But the reality is it's because we weren't using preventative care in our food that we were eating or in the supplements that we were using. So we realized this firsthand when Sai was about 18 months old. This is a time when a baby should begin to formulate words, and he wasn't. He was communicating, but a lot of his words were muffled, and he wasn't, he didn't have a vocabulary of sorts. And we found that he had a virus that was actually impeding his hearing. And so he had a lot of drainage in his ears. They did a hearing test on him and he failed in both ears. And the mom guilt set in. How many of you have experienced mom guilt, right? I felt horrible because I just thought it was a cold that wouldn't go away, but now it was impacting something so much more greater. So we were able to get that cleared eventually, but the damage had already been done. And so his speech had been affected and he had a delay. And so we jumped in with early intervention, speech and language services, and they are angels. I just have to give a shout out because they were so good with him and really brought him along. I would say he still is delayed at the age of 5, receives regular speech services, but I mean, he is, holding his own with everyone else in class. And what was interesting is at the age of 2.5, I was actually able to introduce Shackley. And since then, the health of my children has not only drastically improved, but the amount of times we're sick or have to have our doctor visits that are not wellness visits has pretty much diminished to almost nothing. And that is because my kids are champs when it comes to vitamins, taking their daily vitamins. And again, it's not just taking vitamins, it's which vitamins they're taking. And I've also taught them a lot about nutrition and making healthy choices and things like that. So our hope here is in the next few slides, we want to just show you some of the things that we've implemented because I truly believe, as an elementary school teacher, that the earlier you can teach your children, the more normal, quote unquote, it becomes and just becomes part of their lifestyle. And you all have experienced this, those that have older children, it's harder to fix those habits or change them, right? So to be able to think ahead and plan for this is something that's really played a vital role in my own family's life.
Yeah, and so here are just some of the nutrition that we use. We have a children's multivitamins. It's called the Incredibites right there. It's amazing. There's the 23 essential vitamins and minerals for the healthy development. You have 100% of the daily value of all 8 Bs. You have the calcium and the D for bone health. And it was actually the first children's supplement with lactoferrin, which is the immune booster that's found in breast milk. And so I just love that piece of it. You also are not getting any artificial ingredients or flavors, and it's naturally sweetened. So you don't have to worry about like tooth decay or any of those issues. There's also a chewable vitamin C, which my kids actually, when they can tell they have a cold or a cough, they're like, Mom, I need those sour things. So they know, they understand that these help them stay well. Then our Mighty Smart chews, which are they're like a orange Starburst. They're chewy, orange flavored. They're really great. And you're getting like 200% more DHA than the leading brand, which is really awesome. There's no fishy aftertaste. My kids love them. And then obviously it supports the brain and the eye health. And I actually found that once we started using those with my oldest, like his attention in class was just so much better. His teachers could see that right away. And then the tiny, we talked about it already, but this tiny Pearl probiotic, not only do my husband and I take that, but all of our kids do it. You can pop it in the top of like a applesauce pouch. It's super easy to swallow. If your kids have ever been on antibiotics at all, they need to be on a probiotic to help heal that gut. And then you see those yummy energy bars, and we make energy bites with the Life Shake. So we do more than just smoothies. And then my kids actually think they're getting like a type of dessert, but we're like packing them with cookies.
So pictured up here, we have some real life examples of how to encourage your kids to have these healthy snacks as they start to explore foods. I know in my home, we looked at the earliest foods being whole foods, right? Like avocados and bananas and things like that. But it's harder once they're introduced at school to some snacks and birthday parties and all those things. It's harder to entice them with these foods. So what's important to know in these first 1,000 days, whether it's the supplements that they're taking or the foods that they're eating, you're training their palate. And it takes some preparation, but it's worth it because I didn't do it as well with my first, and she will grab the crackers and the chips, and wait days until she gets a chip rather than eat a carrot. I'm constantly fighting with her, although she's older and takes her supplements really, really well. And so I don't worry as much, but I'm working towards it. But with my younger one, I did start with the whole foods. We did start implementing things to shape her palate really young, and she'll have salmon for breakfast with an avocado on the side, so shaping the palate's so important. And we can do that, right from the beginning, right from their first foods, even from the breast milk that they're getting. And it's really important because it does impact their physical health and their mental well-being for sure.
I'm just such a firm believer in this. And here you can see my kids making their morning smoothie. I usually make it for them, but they do enjoy adding the ingredients, knowing what's going into it. And what am I doing? I'm educating them while we're doing it. Look at our whole foods, as Kate mentioned, and let's get some veggies in here, some fruit. There is spinach in their smoothies every morning. And again, most kids would bat their eyes at that. But if it becomes part of a lifestyle or normal, and FYI, you can't taste spinach in a smoothie. I don't know if you're aware of that. They're getting so many nutrients in the morning. If I were to ask you, what do your kids typically eat for breakfast? The popular breakfast foods are cereal, waffles, donuts, right? Sugary, carb filled food. And so we really make a focus at home to give nutrient, protein rich foods, especially for breakfast, so that they're not experiencing that sugar crash mid-morning at school. We make our vitamins really fun in the morning. You can see I have those silicone muffin cups, and so that's sitting at their spot every morning with their vitamins. Again, I don't even have to remind them at this point. My kids have been swallowing vitamins since the age of, I believe, 2.5. And it's just not even an issue. And here you can see Lauren Sweet Gloria eating some broccoli and I think it's sweet potato or carrots. But here are just, again, those first foods that Kate is referring to. If this is their normal, this is what, what they come to expect when it comes to their daily nutrition.
Okay, so immune health, we've been talking a bit about that. And what's really great is that these immune products are safe for the whole family. And so this is a really great way, you don't have to keep certain cold and, medicines locked up. These are just great ways that you can actually receive side benefits instead of having like side effects from a medication. So these are a great way to help not only prevent getting all the sickness that goes around, but also, if you do start to get that tickle and, or your kid comes down with something, because that will happen. These are some great tools in our natural medicine cabinet. So that hydrate product, like we said, that's just a great way to help avoid Pedialyte. And then even that alfalfa that I mentioned earlier for the breast milk supply, that's a great way to help with to be a natural decongestant. So I won't get into all the details with these, but it's just a really great way for us to naturally approach sickness and staying well.
And we may, in regards to the natural medicine cabinet and this next slide about healthy living, since we're moving through it a little quicker, keep in mind we have webinars recorded on all of these topics separately. And with April coming up with Earth Day, I guarantee you that whoever invited you to this call will have resources for clean, healthy living and green homes. And I just cannot stress this enough. I have clients asking all the time about skin conditions in their children and could it be diet related? And I ask questions like, what are you washing their blankets in that you're wrapping them in? Kind of thinking of how these chemicals that are in our home are exposing us to toxins, and the kids' brains are growing so rapidly that the toxins are extra effective towards them and they're impactful. I mean, asthma is increasing, eczema, psoriasis, all these things that are more like autoimmune responses to triggers like toxins and allergens and things. So you can see our whole line of Get Clean products here. We use every single one of them in our home. It helped simplify my life so much because it was so easy. I knew where everything was and what everything I used it on, and it was so cost effective. I love that I don't buy cleaning supplies at Costco anymore. The bill is so much lower. So keep an eye out for webinars that specifically focus on that. But it's so important in those first 1,000 days to reduce that exposure to toxins.
Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is we don't live in a perfect world, and we won't live in a perfect world. We can't keep our kids in a bubble, but there are some really small, simple choices we can make in our homes that add up to make a huge difference. So I just want to encourage you that, those little things like the cleaners and what we're eating, and, as simple as, the daily choices that we make, those can add up to make a really big difference. And I know for me, like I said, I had thought about things like free and clear or organic or natural or biodegradable. And, you think all those things are great, but sometimes they have certain chemicals in them still that can be an irritant to our kids. So these are just pictures of my kids helping me clean. I love the peace of mind knowing that they can not only be around our cleaners, but they can touch them. They can, I mean, if they were even to drink them, they would be okay. And what's really nice too is they're just super inexpensive. So like Kate mentioned, like not only has it really simplified our life, but I was using vinegar and baking soda before, and the basic H, that's like that super concentrated all-purpose cleaner, so many different uses, that's actually cheaper than vinegar. So it's a great way for our family to save money as well.
So you can see why Shaklee is such a draw for us. Not only are the clinical studies showing us that they work and that they're safe, but we can get the products that we would purchase at Costco, Target, Walmart. We can get them all from one store, quote unquote, and it's, you know, shipped straight to our door. It's cost effective, and we know exactly what it is we are using. And I think that's important when you think about when you pull something off a shelf, what do you know about that product? Here we have the clinical research reported and proudly displayed in our catalogs showing you that it works. So we're firm believers, obviously, in these products. So before we wrap up tonight, we would be remiss if we did not mention how Shaklee has impacted our lives as moms when it comes to having our own home-based business. And I say moms with the idea that this is for everyone, but we know that there are a lot of moms on this call tonight, and we four can speak as moms as well. So I can just tell you how it has literally changed my life, not only for my family's health and wellness, as I've mentioned earlier, but really when it comes to our income and also what my children are seeing. In fact, they're watching. And what I've been able to do with my Shaklee business is model what it looks like to serve and care for people, because that's really essentially what our job description or our job title entails. And so my kids are watching that happen. They get to see me set goals. They get to see me part of a community that is passionate about health, that wants to see one another succeed. And they get to see more of me because I can manage my time, and this is very flexible. You can see here was a couple years ago, we went around my neighborhood just sharing some samples of Shaklee with the neighbors and got to meet some of our neighbors. And here it's a family business for us. My kids help me in so many ways, and they take ownership in that, which I love passing on to them. Sam here is just showing just the flexibility of literally you can take your job with you wherever you are, and you can work on it whenever you can. And so here are some highlights again, the flexibility, that's okay, the simplicity, the fact that this is social, it's about people, and that it's mobile. You can take your business with you. These are just some of the few facets of a Shaklee business that really draw people into it. So if you have more questions about what this would even look like, whether it's even the right fit for you, we are looking for people who are passionate about earning an extra income while helping others. And so if you feel like that's something you'd like to learn a little bit more about, please reach out to whoever shared this webinar with you, and they can just share more information with you, like I said, to see if this would be something that draws you in. So finally, just know that this is something that is empowering. And as a mom, as a dad, you should feel empowered to be able to provide for your family, not only financially, whether it's through a Shaklee business, but also through nutrition and supplementation and health and wellness. And so we want you to take the information tonight, take the knowledge that you've received, and use it to empower yourself. You are in control of your family and the lifestyle that you have created. And so what are some of the bits of information that you heard tonight that you feel like you could begin to introduce in your own home, whether it's through products, whether it's through a lifestyle change? We want you to be encouraged and empowered, not to feel guilty that you're a year behind or you should have started or shoulda, woulda, right? Today's the perfect day to begin. So we really want to encourage you to do that and to be able to provide for your family the healthiest environment that you can. So thank you for joining us tonight. Kate, Lauren, Sam, thank you so much for sharing.